Yes, guys. Welcome to another stream. We're back here with the Academy stream. Me and Gav are here going to be talking about all things Mansfield Town, Papa John's Trophy, and EDS Fire Sale. Gav, how are we doing, man?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Yeah. Losing players on a regular basis now.
Yeah, it's actually bizarre. Like, literally everything. It's funny, actually. There's a guy who I speak to on Twitter who knows quite a bit about the Academy as well. And I sent him a message on... When did we play Mansfield? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, Tuesday, yeah.
I sent him a message on Tuesday and said, oh, that Larios looks decent, doesn't he? And then and he didn't reply. And then the next day he says... He's just been sold. It's actually bizarre what's going on. Yeah. Joe Shields is absolutely raiding the City Academy at the moment. But we're going to speak about loads of stuff today, guys. We're going to speak about all the players that are leaving. I know loads of people have been asking about Dozy as well, and finally we've got some news on him. And then we'll speak about the Mansfield game as well. And if you guys have got anything else that you want us to speak about in the meantime in the chat, then obviously just fire it away. But I guess we should probably start with a Dozy, Gav, because, you know, we've been doing these streams a couple of weeks now, and every single week people keep on asking us about Dozy. Obviously, it was rumoured that it was going to go to Bayer Leverkusen. That was apparently all but done. That then sort of stalled, and then we didn't really know what was going on. It looks like he's now going Southampton. What do we think of this deal?
Well, I can say, obviously, he hadn't got his heart set staying with the club, so it is the best thing to let him find another club. And obviously, like I say, Joe Shields at Southampton, they want him there, and he's got a chance of probably more minutes there, hasn't he? Because there's no doubt about it, he's a very talented young man, and if he can develop further, you know, they could have a real play on their hands. I don't know much about the actual deal itself. I presume there's probably going to be possible buybacks and sell-ons, I would have thought, you know, so...
Yeah. Now, the deal looks apparently it's going to go around 8 to 10 million quid, which is what we sort of expected if we look at sort of previous deals. Buybacks, potential sell-ons included in there as well. But look, Dozy's a player that I really like. I think he's a real talented player. I think his all-round game is very, very strong. And, you know, I was a little bit disappointed that it was going, even when he was first rumoured with a move away to a Leverkusen. I was a bit disappointed. Obviously, then that stalled. It was a bit like weird. No one really knew what was going on. The reason, obviously, we now know the reason why that was going on is because obviously Southampton in for a move. And to be honest, I think he'll do well there. I think he has the potential to get into that first team, play some minutes, and like I say, I think his overall game is really, really strong. And if City do have a buyback clause in, that's obviously very clever, because I think he could do really, really well. With these wingers and the strikers, Gav, if they get into the first team, they only need a couple of goals or a couple of assists, and then everyone starts talking about them, don't they? And then the value just seemingly skyrockets this day and age.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So, Dozy's gone. And in a double deal, Larios as well. Now, this is one of the... I think I have seen him before, but I'm pretty sure that like this is one of the first times that I've taken note of him in the game against Mansfield Town. I thought he was really, really good. I thought stepping into that sort of inverted position,
Yeah.
I thought he was really, really good on the ball. And like I say, I texted a guy on Twitter and said, this guy looks really strong. The next day he's gone as well. So that was quite a strange one for me because obviously City must have known that he was on the way out. And yeah, Larios. Is this a mistake, Gav, or what do you think based on
Yeah,
what?
again, the guy's got some really big potential, but obviously, like I said, they've got Thomas Galvez who plays at left back as well. But Juan played at right back at Mansfield, didn't he? But and he dealt quite well with that the other big lad that he was playing against. And but yeah, I've always been quite impressed with him. So it was a strange one. But again, if he's been offered the chance of possibly more minutes there and possibly being placed on the bench at Southampton, first team, then more forward to him because great. Super.
Yeah. Do you think City are going to face more of this, Gab, in the sense that like we're getting these players that are coming through and looking really, really strong, but then because of the elite position that City are in, in the sense that we are one of the best clubs in the world. Do you think City are going to face this more and more with these academy players? That even though they're really, really good, just because our club is so good that we are going to face a lot of these players wanting to move to other Premier League teams, wanting to move to Germany because they feel that they can fast track the career. You look at Sancho, he fast tracked his career. He probably would have played for City, but I don't think he would have played as many games for City as he did for Borussia Dortmund. Do you think we're going to face more of this? And is there anything that City can do to try and retain some of these players, or is it just a simple case of letting them go, get the money in, and put buyback clauses in?
Yeah, I think we've got to be open and let these young players make a decision where they want to go, and it's great that as I said, I think they could have more chance to come to us, knowing that we'd be happy for them to move on should they want to really, but then they get the ability of training with Pep if they've progressed enough onto a sort of a temporary sort of basis with the EDS and with the first team that they move across every now and again. But whether whether we could stop them moving on as easy, I don't know whether that's a good idea or not. But time will tell, won't it? Whether we can keep some of the better players and help them progress, because obviously once you've started to promote some of the players, then there becomes less and less minutes available for the next ones behind it, doesn't it? Because they're young and good. Like I say, Rico getting some minutes, and again he looked the part, didn't he? Last night coming on, yeah,
he did. He looked really strong.
So it's you just this time and minute spaces that are going to be available are going to shrink all the time because those few players that have been promoted are taking those other minutes, and that's as I say when you bring in a new centre half. Obviously, it was great that Luke's gone to Huddersfield on loan. So
Yeah, no, it is definitely a balancing act for sure for the club because there's definitely some special players. I mean, if you look at the teams, there's always one or two players in each team that you think these have got a real shot of making this City first team. You know what I mean? Then you've got the couple that if they improve a little bit, then they could make it. And then you've got a group of lads who, realistically, if we're being honest, probably won't make it, but will probably have a good career in football nonetheless. Which I always say, I don't say that as a disrespectful thing. I think that's a win in today's game. That's definitely a win for them. But it's a difficult balancing that for the management team of these academy players, and football is so important and so big these days that I never blame these players if they want to leave and try and fast. You can. I don't think you can. And I know some people who they don't fully understand that reasoning, but you've got to understand you've got not necessarily 17-year-olds, but 18, 19 and 20-year-olds who are in the City Academy and are looking at the progression to the first team. And unless they are a superb talent, an unreal talent, then they're probably not going to make it as a first team starting week in, week out for another 2 to 3 years. They can go to Germany. Someone like Dortmund or Leverkusen, all these teams will take them, pay them a nice handsome wage, and they'll be playing week in, week out. And if they go there, do well for a year or two, they'll be back in the Premier League playing for a top 6 side. And it's just, that's what I say, it's a fast track Now, of course, City lose a little bit because if the player does really well, like we've seen with Sancho or other players, then, you know, if you want to buy him back, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But at the same time, we're still going to get these days we're getting 10 to 20 million pounds for some of these players who've never stepped foot on the Etihad football pitch at all. So, like I say, it is a balancing act and it is difficult. But I think City are doing well at the moment. I don't think you can really criticise City with the way they're handling these players. I don't think, unless there's something that I'm missing. Is there anything that I'm missing, Gav?
No, I don't think so, because as I say, these young lads have got an idea what they want to do, and you've got City as a club have got to do what's right for them, but obviously make like we say, a balance after saying, look, we can offer you this, but if you want to do something, well, as long as we can get the right deal together, we're happy for you to go. Then it is what it is, and I like I say, I'm really happy for them and hope they have a really good career away from City. And obviously, if there's the buyback in there, possibly the chance for them to come back. Although buybacks are usually very rarely used, aren't they? But even with the sell-ons, if they go for like 50, 60 million, if you've got 20% of that, you've got another 10 million for a player that again never played for the first team or whatever properly.
Yeah. It's a way of, it's helped fund the club, and I've said this, but since FFP comes in, it almost forces the clubs to do this, and some fans don't like it in terms of like developing these players and selling them on. But like I say, FFP forces clubs into a business model, and this is a very successful way of generating cash for the players. They go around buying these players, they'll pay a couple of $100,000 in compensation. If you look at a Dozy, for example, Dozy is probably a good example. I think we got him in 2018. I don't know exactly what happened, but we probably played Watford a couple of $100,000. He comes in and he'll be sold for 10 million quid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
it was Millwall, but they get a bit of that money, don't they? I think they had 20%, so they get a couple, maybe up to a couple of million themselves. So
yeah, and of course, once in a blue moon, you will strike gold and you will get a player that is just completely unbelievable and breaks through. But I do see a couple of comments sometimes saying that the academy is getting further and further away from the first team. Now, I think it's the other way around. Now, some people say, LB, this is exactly the same thing. But I actually think that it's the first team that's getting further and further away from the academy, because the first team just keeps on improving so much that it's just becoming... I don't think that, I think when you say it the other way around, when you say the academy is becoming further away from the first team, it sounds like that the academy is just being put to one side and just left to one side, and the first team is the focus and whatever. But the way I think about it is, I do think that the club have a genuine interest in trying to get players from the academy to the first team, although they do have that sort of business minding sense. But I just think the first team and Pep Guardiola have developed this squad into something that's so completely unreal. I mean, I don't know, you was probably at the game last night, Gav, that you're just watching the game and you just think, these are the best football players in the world. So, of course, it's going to be difficult for an 18 or 19-year-old to get into the side.
Totally, because the football we played last night, and like I say, Alvarez, man, he was just electric, wasn't he? He was my man of the match. Obviously, Haaland got thing, and then Gundogan quite closely behind him. He was everywhere, midfield. So it was a joy to watch last night, wasn't it?
Got a super chat here from Professional Idiot. It says our academy players will definitely shine considering how dominant they are in the lower levels. Those who do pass will have a massive future at City. Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, if you watch the academy games, and obviously we did the watch along of the Mansfield town game. We had about 300 people watching that, so it was good to see some interest from other City fans who can't make that game, and we'll be watching more academy games. So I do think it's important. It's all good for us to sit here last night talking about Haaland and Alvarez and all that, but as a fan, you know what I mean, as a big City fan, I do think it's important to take a keen interest in what's going on in the academy sides, and that's why I think it's important that we watch these games. And we'll come on to the Mansfield game in just a second, guys. But I think if you look at the players that are being loaned out, you've got Delap going out on loan. You've got obviously McAtee go out on loan. You've got Doyle that's out on loan, and you've got probably a couple more that spread around Europe. And I just feel that sometimes people think because we've seen Foden come through and he wasn't loaned out. I do feel that sometimes fans now just think, well, if the player's loaned out, they're never going to make it. And I don't agree. I don't think you can just look at Foden and go, well, Foden wasn't loaned out. So if McAtee's being loaned out, then he'll never make it at City. If Delap's made it loaned out, then he'll never make it at City. Them two might not never make it at City, but I don't think you can apply the Foden thing to everyone. I do think some players will have to be loaned out and then we'll come back and do well.
Yeah, I mean, at the time when Foden was coming through, I don't think we had that abundance of talent in the squad outside of the actual first starting 11, did we?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Foden was an exceptional talent as well, because obviously he was only 17 when he first started to appear, wasn't he, on the first team? So, but these other players, they're so talented, the likes of the Delap, McAtee, and Tommy Doyle as well. But just because they're on loan doesn't mean you say that they're not going to find a way back to the City's first team. But it does. I mean, even if they do have another loan or whatever, they're still developing, aren't they? While they're there, and they're learning about a different club and so on. So when they come back, they'll have a better idea of where they think they want to be in their career and stuff, and whether they say, well, I think I want to be sold, or because I don't think there's or again they'll fight to see if they can win a place in City's first team because they've done so well on the loan. I think that Pep is not just going to ignore them because he doesn't see them on a daily basis. No. I think he's going to have a look at them each time they come back out in the pre-season.
Of course. And you know what, Gav? I think a perfect example of that is Luke Mbete. I think the reason that City have bought Akanji is because I think that Pep is going to play a 3 at the back in quite a few fixtures this season. And if my personal opinion is if you are going to play a 3 at the back, then I think you do need 5 proper full centre backs, because I think 4 in this day and age with the amount of games that we play isn't enough. So I just think that he's probably thinking about Mbete. Look, it's probably a little bit too soon for Mbete to be a 5th choice, because a 5th choice and a 3 at the back is probably going to play quite a lot of games. Let's go out on loan. Let's see what you do at Huddersfield, which is obviously is where he's going, and then we'll assess the situation in a year's time or 2 years' time. And even if he doesn't make it at City, Mbete, and we keep Ake or whatever, then if he does well at Huddersfield, he'll have a career in football. If you look at Tosin, yes, okay, it was probably slightly disappointing that we never really seen Tosin given at least a go. But you think he's that bothered now? He's playing in the Premier League. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about for these kids. It's not about, I say kids, but a lot of them are adults these days. It's about making a career in the sport, innit? You know what I mean? That's about keeping them in the game rather than letting them drop out. And yeah, I just think people need to not look at the Foden thing and go, well, if they're loaned out, then that's it. They're never going to have a career at City. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. We're going to speak about the Mansfield game now. Before we do, yes, shout out to Obeid. He's just gifted 10 Xtra Club members membership. So fingers crossed to everyone in the chat. Hopefully you get one of them. Thanks a lot, Obeid, bro. Appreciate that, man. Right, Mansfield Town versus Manchester City. It's the Papa John's. Have you ever had a pizza from Papa John's, by the way, Gav? Just to slightly.
Yeah. Used to, the first one in Greater Manchester was open just around the corner when I was living in my old house, and I tried it. I thought, no, the sauce is far too sweet for me.
Not for you. It's not for you. No. Which one was that one? Is that the one at Whitefield? Not Whitefield. Is it the one in
Great Moor, Stockport? Yeah.
Oh, is it? Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I much prefer a Domino's. I can't lie, but they're just very expensive pizzas, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can go Asda and you can get one of them pre-made ones for like £3 or £4, it's difficult to justify spending 15 quid on a pizza. Anyway, Papa John's Trophy, Mansfield versus City. Interesting game, wasn't it? It was really, it started really, really well. And I think I think the whole game was a pretty good game, to be honest. It was an open game, both teams attacking each other, and City, for the large part, did very, very well. You know, they did end up getting beat 3-2. And we'll obviously assess some of them goals, but just on a sort of general basis, Gav, what's your thoughts on the game?
Well, yeah, I think obviously with the defense is a bit sort of thrown together, because you got Kane Taylor. I think obviously they're going to try and make him in one of these midfielders. They're trying to make into a fullback, and I think he left a little bit space on that side, and they exploited it. But again, with the pace we had of Borges and Mabudi down the flanks, and Will Dixon was doing well at running the channels and looking for space. It was interesting, because Mansfield was certainly put into a game, but ultimately in the second half they seemed to sort of lose their way a bit, and they didn't know how to deal with the pressure that Mansfield put them under, did they? And they left too many gaps, and they got around us a bit easier. But as we spoke before, and I think it'll be a big learning curve for them. They'll be able to see where they went wrong, because I'm obviously Shay Charles was doing a really good job of screening in front.
He was,
the back four, but just sometimes in that Key and Brecken, there was a bit too much of a gap sometimes, and I don't think that the midfield was helping that situation where when the ball was getting turned over, wasn't it, and coming straight back in that second half. So it was. I didn't know whether really there was anyone that they could have changed to help that situation, but like I say, they'll learn that they need slightly better, more positioning in that midfield to help the team, and then also try and get the ball out quicker to Borges and Mabudi, because obviously their pace on both flanks they're frightening their fullbacks. But I think Mabudi had a bit of a quieter second half, didn't he? Whereas I thought Carlos was still trying that, to run the chance a bit more.
I would agree with that. I remember saying before the game, because some of the people that joined us for the watch along for the game, probably this is the first time they've ever watched a Papa John's game, and I did just sort of pre-warn them before the game that it can be difficult, and there will be periods of the game where they just there's an onslaught from the opposition team, and you've also got to remember that these are 18-year-old lads. Do you know what I mean? And they're playing against big physical 28-year-olds who are fully developed and have a lot of experience. And I think in the second half, especially, I think that sort of physicality really, really showed. I can't remember whether it was the second or third goal, but do you remember? I say it was a bicycle kick, but it wasn't really. Do you remember the I think it was the second goal where it got pinged to the back post. The guy headed it down, and he sort of like volleyed it in, sort of bicycle kick. And I looked at it. I looked at the replay, and I thought there was nothing really that they could do there. To be, it's just the fact that our players, you know what I mean, are just not strong enough to deal with it. It was all up in the air. It was very much headers.
Yeah, they were a big, tall team. Mansfield. They had a lot of players over 6 foot. They were. They were an imposing team, and as I say, in the second half, they put a real shift in Mansfield, didn't they? And that pressure told, didn't it? I think,
yeah. But this is why I always say that they would have learned a lot from that game, and I think you said that earlier on. Do you know what I mean? Because that Premier League 2, they're playing against players they're the same age or similar age, and because they're so much better than them technically at most of the teams in that league, that they'll just pass it around. And even the sort of slightly more physical players are not even that really much more physical when they come into these teams, even though Mansfield are in League 2, and I think they'd had a mediocre start to the season, if I can say, with six games played, 3 wins, three draws, 3 losses, because they're playing against 30-year-olds and 29-year-olds. And as you say, they were so tall. I mean, that number 9, Bowery, I think he played left wing for most of the game. I mean, I thought Larios, even though he's gone at Southampton now, so probably don't spend too much time on it. I thought he did really, really well, because at Bowery, he was fast, he was powerful, he was strong. And poor Larios, I don't know how tall he is, but he couldn't have been much more over 6 foot, even if he reached that. So it is difficult, but this is the learning process, isn't it, Gav? There's no point in just playing Premier League 2 games and winning 3-0 every week. You've got to be challenged, haven't you?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Finley being one of the older players at the back, maybe he could have done a little bit more to try and help the other players, but you're sort of splitting hairs, really, aren't you, about things? But like I say, dealing with like those big lads who were on it in that second half. It's very difficult when they've got the experience to know how to move the ball around and get past players a lot easier and just put the ball in at the right time. And it was always sent to be a sort of deep across to the back post that was causing us the problems, wasn't it? From either side, and it meant that our defence was getting pulled around, and they were leaving too big a gaps, and that's how they say that ball headed back across, and he was in totally open space to fire it past Mickey, wasn't he? So yeah.
I want to have a couple, name a couple of players here from the game that I thought had interesting matches, and get your sort of opinions. And guys in the chat, if you watched the game, let us know your thoughts on this. I want to start off with the goalkeeper, Van Sass. Now, people was asking me about the goalkeeper during the watch along at 0-0, and I had to be honest, you know what I mean, because that's what I'm here to do. And I said, look, I've seen this guy quite a lot, and in terms of like stopping the ball from going in the net, I've seen him in quite a few games have sort of below par performances and concede goals. Trying not to be too harsh, because you got to recognise that these are only young lads. And I do think, obviously, for the first goal, I mean, I know he said he thought he got fouled, but I mean, I've seen the replay and I don't think he did at all. And so you've got to really put that first goal down to him. But then he goes and pulls out what he does for our 2 goals, and then you know what? You're almost just like you're tearing your hair out, going, how can you be so good on the ball? You basically created. I know he got an assist for the first goal, and then he got like a pre-assist for the second goal. But he's so good on the ball, but just there's something about it that's just like you need to improve in the sort of keeping the ball out of the net and claiming crosses, because every time I'm sort of watching Van Sass at the moment, he's at fault for something, or if the ball doesn't go in the net, it's you're lucky that it didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'd say when the first game he ever played, I spoke to the people at the academy and went, wow, what have we got here? He can ping the ball around everywhere. I thought we've got a mini Edison here, but as the games wore on, and he saw, no, there's there's mistakes in there and things, isn't there? And his overall goalkeeping isn't at that really high standard, but as someone who can distribute and ping the ball about, it's sometimes it's brilliant.
So what does City do then with someone like him? Because I think McNamara is the second goalkeeper in that level. I've never seen him play McNamara, so I don't know if you have. I couldn't tell you.
A few times. Yeah, he's a steady keeper, but I don't think he's that great with the ball at his feet. But he's probably, I'd say, I've never seen him make any sort of serious errors that have led to goals. So in that respect, he's quite good. But obviously, then you've got True Grant, who's just got his scholarship, hasn't he? I quite like True. I think he's what's his name's son, isn't he? Lee Grant's son. Yeah.
Interesting comment here from Scott, but I'm going to have to disagree with you, Scott. He says he is raw, but for the club to release Bazunu and Lone Trafford, it makes me think that he's highly regarded. I think he's highly regarded in terms of his ball control, Scott, but the reason that Bazunu's gone is because we got paid about 15 million quid. And the reason that Trafford's gone is because he's being loaned to Bolton, and City know that once we sell him, we'll get another 15 to 20 million quid. So I just think with the goalkeepers, I don't think that they apply that same sort of strategy with goalkeeper. Look, I like Van Sass. I think on the ball, Van Sass is probably one of the best players I've ever seen on the ball at his age. But I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? I've just seen him make so many mistakes, and it doesn't pleasure me in saying that. I just hope he can improve in that aspect, because if he can, geez, you're right. He's Edison 2.0.
Yeah.
Look, if you watch academy football regularly, guys, you will notice that the mistakes creep in. I want to move up the pitch.
We got rid of Bazunu because he's not that great with the ball at his feet. But
he's also not.
No. So he was never going to be fit for us as a second choice keeper. No. So
and again, when you're offered 10 to 15 million quid, Gav, for a player that's never even played in the first team, you got to be taking it in this day and age. I want to move up the pitch slightly, and you mentioned it before. Shea Charles, I thought he had a superb game. Gav, I thought he was absolutely. I thought he sat in front of that defense and he marshaled it in front of there. I thought on the ball he made some, tried to make good passes. I hear what you're saying about the midfield being a bit sort of all over the place and a bit dislocated and that. But I thought in terms of just his defensive roles, honestly, mate, I thought, geez, this guy is performing very, very well. I thought he had a cracking game.
Yeah, it's why he's a full international for Northern Ireland now, because he's he's so good on the ball and defending, and he's got some great close control skill. The way there was one time when didn't he sort of half flicked it round and went round the play, didn't he? sold him a sort of half dummy. It was great. No, I'm a big fan of Shea. Whether or not there's a pathway for him to the first team when you got someone as good as Rodri and then we brought in Phillips, it's difficult, but yeah, he's definitely going to have a big career in football. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't become a Premiership regular for someone. Yeah.
You'd think so. I just thought, like I say, the way that he stood there and really helped try and protect that defense as best he could. I thought it was superb. Didn't really see too much of Breckin, so maybe we'll speak about him in another day when he gets involved a little bit more. Borges, we mentioned him before on the left-hand side, and you said again in the second half he carried on performing. I thought it was a great game from him. I thought, when he got the ball, the first thing that he'd look to do every time, he's head up. He's sort of like a perfect player to have with a Haaland in the box. You know what I mean? Because as soon as he got the ball on the left-hand side, his first thought was, can I deliver this ball into the box? And I can't lie. I thought the quality of his crosses into the box was superb. You know what I mean? I thought he was superb. And another day, he could have had quite a few assists there.
I was surprised he missed that one-on-one. I thought he's going to bury that.
I know. And then he hit the bar, didn't he? Of course. Yeah. I know. It was a little bit disappointing that at the end. I was proper into it at the end. But you know what? I thought he had a really good game. And he is someone that I think I don't know. In fact, I don't actually know what he needs to be focused on. Does he just need to just keep more of the same, sort of keep delivering them balls in for obviously it's Dixon at the moment, but whoever it is playing up in the box and sort of try to show the coaches and Pep Guardiola that I can deliver a good ball into the box, which is kind of what you're looking for at the moment.
Yeah, I'm like saying, I've never seen a player that quick as well come through our academy. He's lightning fast, isn't he?
He is. And he's powerful. He's got the strength to hold off the... You see this quite a lot, don't you, in academy football? You see quite a lot of fast players, but they're not strong. So they can get past a player, but then as soon as the defender comes in, they sort of a bit shaky and off balance because they've not got the strength. Carlos looks like he's got the strength that not only can he beat a man, if a player comes across, a defender comes across, or the fullback manages to get back in position, that he can sort of shoulder barge them out the way as well and continue with the... But I think he's got everything that he needs to make it at the top level. How old is he? He's 18 as well.
Is he 18? Yeah, he will be. Yeah, because he was second year, wasn't he? Because he would have been playing EDS last season, but he had quite a lot of injuries, didn't he? So
yeah. So like you say, he did, because I didn't see him that much last season. I can't lie. So do you think for him, get your head down, smash the Premier League 2 this year? Obviously he'll be 19 next year, and then just see what happens from there. Will someone come in? I mean, I would be very surprised if he stays fit this season and plays a lot of games in that Premier League 2 and does well, which you'd expect him to get a bag load of assists and goals. Even if City aren't ready to take him, I would be very surprised if someone didn't try and come in for him next summer and take him off our hands for a pretty penny. I mean, the way he's performing is top class, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I say when you've got the combination of the calmness on the ball with strength, speed, and like I say, always with his head up, looking gonna put a ball in. Those attributes, they're gold dust, aren't they? So definitely.
Right, I want to speak about Mabude as well. I mean, again, you mentioned him before. You said it was a bit of a quieter gaze, but in the second half especially, a bit quieter from Mabude. But again, showing us what he can do. Got an assist for one of the goals. Showing us what he can do. I'd say if you compared him to Borges, I'd say he's a bit different to Borges, isn't he? For me, he's a little bit more like, I don't really know what the guy's going to do. Maboudi. Where with Borges, you look at him and you're like, he's going to try and put the ball in the box. With Maboudi, I think he's, I don't know if he knows what he's going to do sometimes, but because of that sort of unpredictability with the skill and talent that he has, it certainly makes him a frightful player to play against. I think again for him, we have seen links linking him away from the football club. I think someone put it in the chat before saying, "Is Maboudi going to stay at City this summer?" What do you think with him?
Well, I hope he does, because obviously, the EDS team look very, very light, won't it? I mean, like I say, they'll be pushing more players further up, won't they? But that's possibly not a bad thing. Someone like Joel and Dala, he looks like
No, but he's 16. I didn't realise he was 16, Gav.
Yeah,
I seen it because I seen him on the bench, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to see Ndala. I want to see a little bit of him this season." And then I got his details, I got his stats up. He's 16. Well, I doubted that he'd come on because of his age.
Justin's still 16 as well, isn't he? I think he came on. I'm no good at pronouncing his surname, though.
No, I know. Obavawudu. You probably, you know what we need. I don't know if you've seen it, Gav, but before the start of the season, Crystal Palace did a video on Twitter and basically got every single one of the players to stand in front of the camera and say, "How you say my name?"
Yeah.
Regardless of what the name was, and then you could be like, "Right, I know what it's called." Yeah. So he's 16 as well. Yeah, he come on a little. I didn't really see him do too much, to be fair. But like you say, he's only 16, so crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. This guy's because the Papa John's. I was trying to tell the chat. I was like, this is a legit trophy. This is a proper trophy in the lower league. So this ain't no friendly. But Maboudi, I don't think he would. I don't think he'd leave this soon. I think that I think he needs a full year in that Premier League too. And again, hit some good numbers, and then I think possibly the offers could come in for him next summer, along with Borges. Two players that I want to finish off with. First of all, Oscar Bobb. We did that special video, didn't we, on Oscar Bobb, where we spoke about him for about 10 minutes or so for our Xtra Club members. That's still up, guys, by the way. So if you want to go and watch that, you can do. Everything still applies. I thought he was really, really good in that position in that first half, Gav. I can't lie. I think that for me, I think he looks a lot better in the middle than on the wings. I think his ball control is so good that I think he almost suits being in the middle. And I think in that 10-minute video, I couldn't say for sure, but I think we touched on that, he's not as fast as a Maboudi or a Borges. And I don't know, but I don't think he has the skills as like them two either. But what he does have, possibly over them two, is I think he has a really, really good ball control. And I think his footballing brain is really, really good. And I think that can get wasted outside. Because if you're on the wing, you've got limited options. You basically got to put the ball in the box, haven't you? Whereas I think in the middle, you can go left, you can go right, you can go through the middle, you can dictate the pace of the game. And I know he only played 45 minutes, which I'm not sure why, but I thought he had a cracking first 45 minutes. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, I think that certainly in the second half didn't help, did it? Because then we lost that link the way because Keane could drop a bit deeper because Oscar was in front of him. So then there was that link between Shea, Keane, and Oscar. For whereas as soon as Oscar went off, we seemed to lose that in that midfield, didn't we? And I think it was possibly the reason we may have ended up losing. But I don't. Maybe he got a knock. I don't know. I didn't see. He had to go off.
I didn't know. I mean, I did speculate during the watch along that I don't know. Maybe Pep said, I want him on the bench, for the game the day after, but and therefore he can only play 45 minutes if he's going. We've sort of seen that happen with a couple of academy players before, but I can only assume that it was either an injury, which I've not heard anything about the injury, although you don't always hear a lot about academy injuries, or it was a tactical decision. Maybe the manager thought that Nico O'Reilly, a little bit taller, could help out, but it didn't really work out that way. I don't think it was at that point in the game. It's funny enough, actually, because at that point in the game, I don't think the physicality was really an issue, but we actually took Oscar Bobb off, put Nico O'Reilly on, who's a bigger player. But then I actually think that's when the physicality issues started to really sort of come apparent. So
I've been really disappointed in Nico because he's very skillful, but he just there isn't quite enough work ethic from him, I don't think, and it just seems to do the wrong thing, hold on to the ball a bit too much or whatever. Whereas, like you say, Oscar's always rotating the ball really quick. Well, he's looking to find players quickly, or nip past another player,
where he reminds me of, Gav? A little bit, Felix Nemecha. I remember when Felix Nemecha was in the side, and I thought he was such a talented player, but I always just got the opinion that when I was watching, it was like, come on, man, just give me a little bit more, just speed it up a little bit, work a little bit harder, and you can go right to the very top. Felix Nemecha was such a talented player, and I just always felt that he always left a little bit on the football pitch when he come off. Nico has all the talent in the world, man. You know what I mean? I really, really rate him. I think his physical attributes in terms of how big he is, will automatically help him. Skillful wise, he's really skillful. I watched some of his private training sessions on the internet, which you guys can do, and he's bag loads of talent there. But I agree. I just think, I don't know, just speed it up. And I don't know why the manager and the coaches, when he's on the pitch, are not stood on the side of the pitch, pounding him to say, get the ball and move it forward or move the ball quicker. I completely agree. But look, again, young player, hopefully he can pick it up a little bit. And I also do feel a little bit sorry for him because last season he got moved. He was being moved around 18s, EDS, striker 1 minute, attacking midfielder the next. That's difficult. When you're a young player, you want to be playing in the same team, in the same position, and just getting better. And he was being sort of moved because obviously Delap was injured pretty much all season. He was being moved around from pillar to post. I don't think that helps, but come on, Nico, give me a bit more, man. Right. Lastly, I want to speak about Dixon, someone who I can't lie, I've only seen play a handful of times, Gav, because I don't know if he's ever played in the EDS prior to this season because I never seen him last season.
This is his first.
Yeah, I never seen him last season. It was always O'Reilly when I was going last season. Pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses. What we're thinking about him? Because, like I say, I don't think many people know who he is or have seen him that much.
He's a decent enough player, and always has an eye for goal. But I don't know whether he's going to light up anything at any time soon. Really, just not quite at that sort of higher level. But he works hard. That's what puts himself about. So he's unlike Nico, where you're asking, can you do a bit more? Where I think Will is doing what he can do. You definitely. So he's putting it all out there what he can do, but just his levels is not quite there. But yeah, I mean he did well for the goal, didn't he? Got across and
I thought it was good movement actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was decent movement. Obviously, again, young, only 17 years old, so he's still got time to develop. One of the problems that you'll see, guys, with strikers in the Premier League too, it's very much that and you could say, well, that's the whole point, Lewis, but it's very much just how many goals does he score. No one really looks at what else did he do. You know what I mean? Obviously, Gav's there saying he works really hard. I thought his movement for his goal was superb. But I remember if you look at the sort of the ones that have come through in the past, you look at the sort of the Brewsters, the Tammy Abrahams, Lucas Nemecha, Delaps, basically just all about goals. You know what I mean? And and especially playing for City, that pressure will be ramped up even more. So I mean, like I say, he's only 17, so I mean, it's a big season for him. But I'm looking forward to watching him because obviously it's previously been Delap and Nico last season, wasn't it? And maybe a couple of others.
It was one of the reasons that they won the under-17 cup last year because he weighed in with loads of crucial goals. So he was. He was there, but as I say, whether we'll see how that sort of step up into the Premier League too, and in the Papa John's, obviously, I'd say when we got to play Derby, be a bit difficult that one. I think.
I know.
I'm sure they'll try and go out and win it, won't they? It'd be a trophy they could possibly win, couldn't it? Really?
Yeah. I know if they win that game, then they're qualified, aren't they? Because they'll be on 6 points.
Yeah.
We'll be on 1, and Mansfield, who played Grimsby, I mean, Grimsby got beat 3-0, didn't they? So I guess they'd be fighting for second place. Or I guess Mansfield, if they won the game, then it'd come down to the final game against a Mansfield derby. A Mansfield versus Derby for the final game. So who gets top spot? But look, I thought it was, you know what? I thought it was an impressive performance on the whole. It's never easy them Papa John's trophy, that Papa John's trophy, because as I keep on saying, guys, you got to remember that we've got 17 and 18-year-olds on the pitch, and they're playing against 27, 30-year-old, fully grown men. And there can be periods of the game, which I did warn you about, where the City players come under the cosh a little bit and can struggle, and it's just about how can they deal with that. It's about finding solutions. They know they're not going to win the physical battle, so they've got to really work, work the brain a little bit of how can we get out of this. And to be fair, they were really, really unlucky. Carlos Borges had 2 massive chances at the end. Obviously, 1-on-1, probably should have done better. And then the shot that come in from Nico, the pass that come in from Nico on the left-hand side, and then he hit it with his left foot. Again, that's really unlucky, hit the bar. But, anything that we've missed, Gav? Anything that you think?
No.
How did you think Katongo done? I know you rate Katongo a lot. How did you think
he
did?
As I say, I think there were times when they were. I think they were him and Finley. They were too far apart, weren't they? I think So now I think, like I say, Finley should have maybe been a bit more vocal and said, "Come on, Jadel, get closer to me." So, but yeah, I say they'll learn from it, but I do rate Jadel a lot, but we'll see how he fares to win the Premier League too, and then obviously any further Papa John's Trophy game. I don't think I'll be probably going to Derby, but I'll certainly go to Grimsby, I think.
You're going to Grimsby, yeah, because that's all the way. I've been to a few of these Papa John's trophies before, and they're pretty fun to go to. And so I thought, let me have a look at Mansfield, 2 hours away. I can't be doing 2 hours. And then I thought, let's have a look at Grimsby. And I see Grimsby's right on the coast, man. Got a beach and everything. So you're going to that one, yeah?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll do Grimsby, but I don't think because obviously I don't hold much out for Derby, and then you just if they have about 4,000 or 5,000 there, then it's finding parking and different things, isn't it? Because obviously when you used to reserve games, you're able to park right near stadiums or whatever, and then get away straight away. Where it's like if it's a bigger game, you've got to find somewhere else to park with a 10 or 15-minute walk or whatever. I'd just like to get on and get home as quickly as possible.
Yeah, good though. Like I said, I've been to a few when they're a little bit closer. I've been Rotherham. I went to Rotherham twice. I think we played Tranmere a few years ago. That was a good laugh. And if people like the Fame, a lot of the parents are there. Ex-professional footballers are there as well. So if you want to have a bit of a chat with and they're all really open. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I had a chat with Rory Delap, Liam Delap's dad. Where was we? We played. We got stuffed 5-0 at Rotherham last season, and he was sat right next to us. You know what I mean? Watching Liam, he could just come back from injury. So it's really good, guys. So if you can get down, tickets are usually quite cheap, and it's quite good. And occasionally you do get you get a good one. Was you at the Rotherham game a couple of years ago when what's that Argentinian kid called who scored in the last minute to take it to penalties? What was he called? Gary. Was you at that one? Everyone ran to the front. I was at that one. That was a good laugh, that one. And it's like a full-on game. So if you can get down to him, guys, it's definitely worth going down and giving him your support. Obaid has come in with gifted memberships. Right, Obaid, you have to help me out here, bro, because I don't know how many I've missed. You give 10, then you give 5, and then you give 5. So 20 overall. I don't know if I've already acknowledged them, but there's 20 there, guys. So fingers crossed to everyone in the chat. Hopefully you can get one. You do have to accept this, guys. So if you're on your phone, you won't get one automatically. So you do have to be on your computer and accept it. That opt-in type thing to get one there. But Obaid's gifted 10. Right, we'll wrap up there, Gav. Who we got coming up there next for City? So I see City there playing West Ham.
West Ham, I'm off to Villa, so unfortunately I can't watch it. So and it's not on City Plus because it's 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. So they were
2 o'clock. The 18s are playing at home against Blackburn on the same day. So yeah, 2 games coming up this weekend. So yeah, wish the lads well there. Hopefully get some replays on the internet and stuff so we can catch up next week. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. In fact, before we go, if you've got any questions, whack it in the chat before we wrap up. Any questions about the academy, any of the players that you want to know about before we wrap up? We've got Gav here. Let me know. I think I've seen someone ask before about how. What was it? I just seen there's a comment here from Scott, by the way. I agree with the club's business model, cash, but to attract elite youth players, they need a path to progress. In case an example, Oscar being at this level for a few years now. Yeah, you could be right there, Scott. And I'm not disagreeing with you again, but at the same time, I think what you've got to remember is the main objective for players between 16 and 19s is to be a professional footballer and make it in the sport. It's not to make it at Manchester City. They can have that as a sort of like, yeah, that's my dream. But what they don't want to do is come 19 and everyone go, you're actually not that good, mate. Go and get a job in the real world. Because they definitely don't want that. You know what I mean? They want to make it as a pro. So I agree. But if City bring them in and say, look, we really like you. We think we can develop you. We don't know if you can make it into the first team, but what we can give you is the best facilities in the world, access to the best coaches in the world. We've got all these CFG clubs, by the way, that we can send you out if we think that's the right development path. And we also have a very, very highly attractive and respected academy in which teams from the Premier League will look at players that have never played for our first team before and go, we're dropping 10 million on him and he can come and play for our first team. So don't always think it's about showing them the path to the first team. It's about showing them a path into football.
Yeah.
Here we go. Jack, quick question here for you. Says, who does Gav think is the best player in the EDS?
I'd say I don't particularly like labeling on individual players.
Pressure.
Yeah,
like putting the pressure on.
The thing, but obviously you've obviously got to look at Borges and Mabudi as the two sort of standouts at the minute, haven't you? Really, that they've probably got a higher ceiling than anyone, maybe even Shay Charles as well. You know,
Did you see my tweet the other day? I thought it was last night actually. I put Rico Lewis has the potential to be the next City right back for the next 10 years. No pressure though, mate. Enjoy your football. You know what I mean? Because you know what? Actually, we'll finish off with Rico Lewis. 17 years old, living. Is he a City fan? I don't know. I mean, he's from round these ends. Could be a City fan, maybe a United fan, but he's living every sort of young lad's dream, playing professional Premier League football at the age of 17. Everyone's raving about him. He's not getting 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the game. He's playing 15, 20 minutes. And he played really, really well last night. And yeah, I mean, he has the potential to play in the City side, like I say, for the next 10, 15 years, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if he chooses that's where he wants to stay. Yeah, definitely.
Right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We've had Gav for an hour. Hope you've enjoyed it. A couple of EDS and Academy games coming up this weekend, so obviously stay tuned to Gav's Twitter. Details, guys, because I feel like put it in the chat for you. MCFC _EDS _Acad. There we go. Go follow him on Twitter. He's got all the details there. And yeah, I guess we'll speak to you probably next week, Gav. Get a bit of an update on what's going on again in the academy. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me, man. I appreciate that. And to everyone in the stream, we'll see you later on. We're doing a transfer deadline day stream. Have a good time, and we'll see you in the next one. See you in a bit.
Right.